We're going to kick off a few minutes early so that we don't run into lunch. So, hi, everyone. I'm Malinda Kohler, and I'm here to talk to all of us about landing a job in cybersecurity or just landing a job. Is anyone here actively looking for a job or a raise or a promotion? Maybe, yes. Okay, cool. Whether it's a job, a raise, or a promotion, or even a business opportunity, it all comes down to building relationships. So that's what we're really going to talk about here. But since this is Day of Security, we will talk about it in terms of landing a job in cybersecurity. Okay, so it's time to find a job. I go to the internet, I start looking for jobs. How do we all feel at this point when we just see the world of opportunities out there? Curious if there's excitement, intimidation, nervousness. Also, job search is about breaking rules. So I'm going to break rules and just ask you all sorts of questions throughout this. Any thoughts on feelings when it's time to go find a job? Slim pickings. Ooh, okay, that's helpful. Any other thoughts that come to mind when looking for a job right now? Apply, apply, apply. Okay, I like it. Yeah, this is how a lot of us feel. Slim pickings. I have to go and apply, 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 and it's really hard. We're gonna simplify it together today. Starting with how we say hello. We all need an elevator pitch that has a simple structure. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I like to add value in a specific way. I've been in these areas that you care about. Recently, I did this thing that you care about, and I'm excited to learn more about you. That's the structure or the outline. You can very quickly build a relationship with this. But we'll use mine so that you get to know a little bit about me. So, hi everyone, I'm Malinda Kohler. I help people land jobs. I've been in tech and education for 20 years. I previously co-founded Almanac, valued at $120 million. And I'm excited to learn more about all of you and see where you go next. I'm gonna go back to this. Does anyone remember one thing that I said from that 30-second elevator pitch? Just one thing, yeah. Oh, okay, you remember that. I help you find jobs. Does anyone remember anything else from that 30-second elevator pitch? 120 million. I love it. Anything else? Co-founder. Okay, you guys all have really good memories, especially because you've been absorbing information all morning. I like to ask that because it's really hard to introduce yourself succinctly and have the other person remember it. But if you can be memorable, you're going to wind up building a lot more relationships. So before I introduce myself to a new person, I already know exactly what I want them to remember. In this case, it might have been, I help you land jobs. It might also be this key result. If you are looking for a job or a new opportunity, you do have to qualify yourself very quickly. But you do need a little bit of context behind that, right? So let's break down the elevator pitch a little bit more. Notice that this elevator pitch also says I've been in an area of expertise, and you can even do more areas of expertise if you want. You could speak of job titles, but depending on where you're going next in your career, and there are a lot of shifts in the economy right now, the job title you're targeting, maybe you don't have direct experience in it. Maybe it's prompt engineer and nobody has direct experience in it. So how do you quickly build a relationship with a hiring manager or a recruiter or anyone who might be able to refer you and speak their language? So you go and find out what's important to them and you build it into your area of expertise. So if it's cybersecurity, maybe it's something on a cybersecurity job description. Or maybe it's just something that's really important to someone else. If I wanted to go and build a relationship with the Roblox team, maybe I'd say, hi, I'm Malinda Kohler. I help people land jobs. I've also been working with 8-year-olds and working with a lot of people in cybersecurity, and I'm really curious to learn more about what you're all doing at Roblox. In fact, I'd like to send you a quick note with my email, and it would be great to talk to one of the recruiters that you trust there. So, this elevator pitch, if you can master it, it is the key to your entire job search. You delivering your own, but also listening to other people, quickly absorbing what's important to them, and building it into your story. We're going to take just a moment. I know we've all been absorbing information, and just say hi to someone in the room. Or if you're at home, just say hi to yourself or your plant. And think about this elevator pitch structure, introducing yourself by some value that you add, some areas of expertise, maybe something you've accomplished. Or if that's like a lot, just think about it and just say hi to someone else. That's what we're all here for today. So I'm going to just give us a minute and I'm going to go say hi to someone, and I'm going to let all of you say hi to someone. And then we're going to talk about the next step of how to take this elevator pitch and move it closer towards opportunities. So we're going to make this a little interactive. I love it. Building relationships, talking to each other. It's what we came here for. I want to see if we have a couple of shares, if anyone is willing to share. I know we're all getting close to lunchtime, but did anyone learn anything about someone else? Let's see if anyone's still here. Yeah, so that's our elevator pitch. It's how we get to know each other very quickly, but I'm curious if anyone learned something new about someone else. We're going to make this super interactive. Timon, did you happen to learn anything? Oh, wow. Transitioning to data engineering. Okay, that's fantastic. That's a lot to learn very quickly. So as we learn about each other, we can use that knowledge to move relationships forward. And if you can do that, you can master every stage of the job search process. So your job search starts with networking. Going to events like this, meeting people, sharing your story. As you go out and share your story and get to know people, you want to convert those into referrals. It's just that simple follow-up of like, hey, it was really great meeting you. I'd like to send you a quick note. Be great to get on a call this next week, learn more about opportunities and interesting problems you're solving. Then after you get those referrals, you get into the recruiter screens, the interviews, the negotiation. So this is the job search process. The first thing you need is that elevator pitch. The second thing you need is a story. Your story is like an extension of your elevator pitch. But your elevator pitch is spoken and interactive and maybe customizable, and you might throw in a different achievement or something interesting about yourself that relates to the person. Your story can be posted anywhere, and it's a reflection of you, and it's a designed to build a relationship. So this story right here was written by someone with zero experience in the tech industry. They had been applying to jobs for over a year and getting nowhere. After posting this story and going to events like this and talking to people, this person went up in a lot of interviews, including final round interviews for a job that was his dream job, which was product marketing manager. So if we look at this story just from his post on LinkedIn, you can see there are 65 people who liked it. Every single person who engaged with it is an open invitation to go and say, hey, I saw that we share some things in common. Thanks for liking my post. I see that you have been in this specific field. It'd be great to chat, right? And next thing you know, there are tons of referrals and then interviews. So your story is this active thing that you go out and you share with the world. And the structure comes back to this elevator pitch, but it's just a little bit more detailed. Here's one more example of a story that landed 8 networking calls and 4 interviews and 2 job offers. Anyone have thoughts on what this person's job was when they posted the story? Can you all see it? Yeah. I analyze data to build and improve educational and training programs. 79% of my students were scoring a solid 2, up from 58% at the beginning of the year. Any thoughts on what their job title was? I love these responses. We heard data analyst and we heard teacher. Teacher is correct. The day that she wrote this story, she was absolutely a teacher. But she used the elevator pitch method. She said, well, where do I want to go next? And she knew that she wanted to get into something more technical. And so she went and she learned about those job descriptions. And she realized that as a teacher, she was using a lot of this thing called data analysis. So she put that into her elevator pitch, into her story. She posted it in a Slack community. And the next day, she had a networking call with someone at a tech company based right here in San Francisco called Scratchpad. And then 10 weeks later, she had 2 job offers. It wasn't her resume that got her those job offers. Her resume did not take her from teaching to tech in 10 weeks. Her story did, doing what all of you are doing right now. Most people that I work with actually take weeks and weeks to build their story. But I had I had one conversation with Carla, and she went home that night after a conversation just like this. And she said she was up all night writing her story, that very short little blurb. But then she went out and she posted it, right? So for her, it was 1 story, 8 calls, 4 interviews, 2 job offers in tech, 0 experience. So wherever you are in your career right now, if the next step feels daunting or not possible, or I have to go back and get so many new skills, well, maybe you do need to go back and get new skills. But maybe you can also figure out how your current story, your current skills, your current experience fit into the job market. And then maybe you can break a few rules, just like I'm breaking a lot of rules today, and you're all going outside your comfort zone, dealing with me. I appreciate it. But maybe you can break a few rules and just tell a story and then go tell it to a few people. And then the next thing you know, you've built a relationship that leads to opportunities, right? So again, it wasn't the resume. 1 story, 8 networking calls, 4 interviews, 2 offers. So we've now moved from just the networking phase. We were networking, we were telling our story. And now we're getting referrals. We're actively talking to people. So you go and you tell that story, and someone reaches out to you in that Slack community, that Discord community, wherever it is that you are hanging out telling your story. And they say, yes, let's talk. Ooh, now this is scary. I went out and I told this big story. It was only a few sentences, and now these people that I haven't talked to at these big companies, that Roblox team, they're so cool. Somebody over there wants to talk to me. What am I gonna say? Well, good news. It only needs to be a 15-minute conversation. We saw what can happen in just 30 seconds of hearing someone else's story. I could go up to anyone at Roblox today and I could say, I'm so inspired by your sense of team and camaraderie. I've been to a lot of tech conferences, but the way all of you went up and introduced yourselves and supported each other is the kind of culture that I want to work in. I'd like to send you a quick note with my resume, and it'd be great to get introduced to a recruiter that you trust. I can do that now because I had such short exposure to the team at Roblox, but I saw something magical in how they interacted with each other, right? And the technology and how they're thinking about both 8-year-olds and their creators, all ages. So much to work with there. So you can have a 15-minute call with someone and make it extremely powerful. The way we would want to do that is do a little bit of research. Think about what you're going to say. Maybe you were at this conference. There's someone here that you saw or witnessed that you want to build a relationship with. So in the first 2 minutes of the call, you're just going to get on and be a human and say hi. Then you want to quickly build an agenda after you say hi. And say, well, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about me, learn a little bit about you, and then let's talk cybersecurity. Setting an agenda just makes people feel safe, brings a lot of power to the conversation. Everyone suddenly knows there's a structure to lean into. And you, as the person who is essentially getting a favor, but really doing someone else a favor, is facilitating, right? You're creating an experience. So, hi, I'm excited to talk to you. I saw your presentation at Day of Security. I'd like to just tell you a little bit about me, learn a little bit about you, and then I really want to talk about the problems you're working on at Roblox. And that crazy girl whose computer screen keeps going blank. So you've done that. And now you use your elevator pitch. That little tool that we all just practiced at least once or thought about. There's a framework for it. Most of us probably already had some kind of an elevator pitch in our mind, right? So now you said, I'd like to tell you about me. Use your little elevator pitch. Hi, I'm Malinda. I've been in tech and education for the past 20 years, and I'm really excited to learn more about you. So now they're going to share something about themselves. They might not be thinking in terms of a 30-second elevator pitch. Maybe they're going to go on and on. That's great. It doesn't matter. But if they don't, reflect something back from the elevator pitch. Oh, that's amazing that you want to get into data engineering. How did that come about? So you reflect something back from the elevator pitch and you just ask a simple kickoff question. And now the fun part begins. You asked for the networking call. You're looking for opportunities. You get to listen. Listen, reflect back, build rapport, ask good questions. But really, this call isn't about you. It's about the other person, right? So you don't have to show up with that big story that you told or too much about yourself, just the highlights. And really, you just want to build a relationship with the other person, engage. As you listen and discuss, you're keeping mind of time, of course. And you do have a big ask that you're leading up to because, like we said in the beginning, to get a job right now, you have to go and apply and apply and apply, and it's slim pickings. So we're all networking with something in mind, move forward in some direction, right? So you've got a big ask, whether it's for a job or something else. But to ask that, you just summarize something powerful that you picked up, lean into the relationship, and set up a next step to move it forward, right? I demonstrated this a few times. It's just that simple. Wow, everything that I learned today about team culture at Roblox really speaks to me. That's the kind of team that I want to work for. I'd like to just send you a brief note with my resume. It'd be great to get an introduction to the recruiter you trust. Something like that. That's your big ask at the end of a networking call. That's how you land new opportunities. Any questions about the networking call? I know you're all out there talking to people constantly. I also love challenges to the process. Yeah, I love this question. Just for everyone at home. Okay, so we just heard that she actually gets people who reach out to her asking for calls. She likes it when they say what they want to talk about. So if she's doing the outreach, should she give that quick agenda and let people know that she's looking for opportunities? We want to do whatever it is that works for us. So if that's what works for you, knowing that agenda, feel free to put it out there, but make sure there's enough rapport behind it. If you've gone and liked someone's post or even reposted something that they said with your top takeaways, now you go and reach out to them, build a little bit of a relationship and say, well, it'd be great to chat for 15 minutes. Here are a couple of things I'm curious to learn about. How did you get into cybersecurity? How do you see my current skills fitting into the problems you solve? How does that sound? Great. I work with a community of 8,000 job seekers, and everyone discovers their own strength in this outreach. I really like your approach. And if it works for you on the receiving end, then you're probably going to have a really organic way of doing that on the giving end. And yeah, it creates that sense of safety. People know what they're walking into, right? That said, if you try it 10 times and you don't get results, try another method. But I think you'd probably see great results from it. So yeah, I say yes. Great question. Okay, well, then, and that's the thing, if we're not getting results, then we try another approach. And so then maybe we soften it. Because I do know on the other side of it, it can just feel like a lot of pressure. If someone says, I want to talk about X, Y, and Z, I might think too much, right? Maybe read the person's profile too. I always like to do that 30-second scan. Great question. Any other questions about networking? I want this to be interactive, and this is all very action driven. So I want to make sure you have what you need as we go through to be able to go out and do this. Okay, so we're going out, we're telling our story, we're getting on calls with people. we're sharing, we're listening, we're moving a relationship forward. We always want to have a next step mapped out, right? Oh, whoops. We always want to have a next step mapped out. So to get that referral, when you send that short note, make sure you reflect back what happened in the conversation. I even like to put the day and time of the conversation. So if I were to follow up with Nicole, my email might sound like, hey, Nicole, it was great running into you at Day of Security. Really enjoyed the presentation and what I saw from the Roblox team. Then next paragraph, I've been in tech and the hiring space for X number of years, and I'm really curious to learn more about what you're looking for. I know there are a lot of people looking for jobs in cybersecurity right now and the problems you're solving. Then I say resume attached. Here are a couple of times that work for me to meet. Let me know what works for you, or I do a calendar link. I make it very easy for that next step. And then I do attach my resume. I also hyperlink my name to my LinkedIn profile. And if Nicole happens to wake up and see her email that day, right after the conference, and remember and respond, great. If she happens to see it a week later because she's out on vacation, the whole blueprint is right there. We want to make it so that the other person doesn't have to do any thinking at all, right? That's the idea. Okay, so we're going out, we're telling our story. Everything that we have learned so far about this 30-second elevator pitch, this story that we're going to go write, it's also going to help us in interviews, especially that 30-second elevator pitch. That said, there are many stages to the interview process, and we have some tools to go out and practice them. But something that I do want to share with you right away is that if you begin an interview with a strong elevator pitch, you will direct the interview in the sense that the person in front of you will want to ask you questions about your areas of expertise. So if you start with saying, oh, I've been in this area and I've done this thing and I add value to businesses in this way, and especially if you happen to share a key result, like some concrete achievement that you have done, and this is for the recruiter screen, right? Then that recruiter suddenly has something to ask you about. Oh, well, you're interested in cybersecurity, but what was this 2,000 customer records? Can you tell me more about that? Now you get to talk about what you're most familiar with in your interview. And if you constantly do that throughout the interview and you share your area of expertise, the results you've achieved, what's important between you and this company, you're going to wind up building a relationship. Interviews are just a tool to figure out how we're going to work together. So if someone asks you questions out of the blue because you aren't giving them enough information to go on, you don't know where they're going to go. They don't know where you're going to go. Getting closer to that connection is just going to be all the more difficult, right? So keep that elevator pitch with you for the interview process as well. Remember that elevator pitch powers every single step: the networking, the referrals, the recruiter screen, the interviews, the negotiation. The last thing I'll say about interviews, for all of your behavioral questions, you can treat every single behavioral question that comes your way like a mini elevator pitch. It's not going to be the same one you introduced yourself with, but it's going to pull back, give a little bit of context about why you're an authority to speak about it. It's going to share a concrete key result. That's the most important thing. So if someone says, how do you manage solving complex problems under tight deadlines and a lot of pressure from various stakeholders? I'm going to say, well, I've been working in product for the last 10 years. In fact, my first job was right when the iPad 1 came out, and I was managing stakeholders across Disney and Pixar to deliver apps on a newly released technology within 6 months. And then I go and I actually speak to it, right? But I gave a key result. I threw out some brand names, threw out some technology from a while. Like, I clarified that I am an authority to speak about this. I didn't just go right in and answer the question. I used that elevator pitch method first to get their attention and draw them in. So keep that in mind with your interviews. That elevator pitch Same structure to ace those interviews as well. I also have a tool that will help all of us just practice interviews. In fact, I'm just going to see if I can demo it right here. So let's speak the responses. Can you tell me about your experience in compliance and how it relates to? I've been in the compliance industry for the past 10 years, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about your role. So this is an interview coach that is constantly going to try to ask me questions to help me say something relevant to the job, no matter what I say back. We'll give it a moment to think.
That's great to hear. Can you tell me about a time when you were responsible for managing the compliance program from start to finish? And what was your approach to ensure successful on-time delivery?
I don't know if you all heard the voice, but you can at least see the text. So this is an expert interviewer. They're going to be empowering. They're going to make it a safe environment. But if they hear that I wasn't able to give anything substantial, they're going to keep asking questions to help me get to that point where I'm telling my story. I'm giving something of substance. So this is one of the technologies that I'm building right now to help all of us practice our interviews, practice our elevator pitches, and go out there and land those jobs. It's in the slides to sign up for early access. So go ahead and check it out if you find it helpful. After you go back and forth for a little while, you'll get to see some analytics about your interview performance. That's also super helpful. And then let's just take it back to our topic matter. So yes, the whole process, the elevator pitch will help you from networking all the way through negotiation, and Conversa will specifically help you practice all of those interview skills. And please also reach out to me for any question about job search, career, raises, promotions, where you want to go next. I actually started my career in teaching and then pivoted to product leadership when the iPad 1 came out. I've been leading growth and operations for the past, well, over 10 years now at various startups and tech companies before I started my own entrepreneurship journey. So I love talking about the full life cycle to get a product and company off the ground. And I'll pause there. I think we have a few minutes for questions before lunch, though I know we're all probably getting hungry. Yeah, any questions so far? I answered every question about career growth. That's amazing. Yeah, imposter syndrome, how do you deal with it before getting the job? Though I'll also say it's a constant battle even when you do get the job. The way that I have found that's most helpful is going out and telling your story and taking that first step, because as soon as you do, it's usually reflected back to you in a powerful way, because the other person also is showing up with some form of imposter syndrome themselves. If you start the conversations and empower other people to share, it does a lot to create that safety, but it's an ongoing thing. And I'm curious for everyone how you manage imposter syndrome. The other thing that I will say, no matter where you're at in your career, whether you're entry level, director, VP, C-level, you have some form of imposter syndrome. So that always helps me to know that, like, oh, I'm like the only person in the room who doesn't have experience in this area. Oh, everyone's concerned about something, right? Yeah, good question. Yeah. Any other questions about just networking? Yeah. Yes. Such a good question. And I'd be curious to hear everyone's thoughts on the thank you letter. First thing is absolutely send a thank you letter. Second thing, I like to send it either within the hour or like a couple hours right after, or by the next morning at 9 a.m. Similar to the way you ask for a referral, you want your thank you letter to reflect back all of the information the person needs. What was your name? Katie. Okay. And what are you up to these days in life or career? Interviewing. Okay. For what types of roles? Security analyst. Okay. Okay, so 20 years of IT security experience, access management. So if I just had an interview with you and be like, hi, I really enjoyed our interview today, date and time. Your experience in IT management and access management is really interesting to me, and I like the problems that I got to learn about how your team is solving. I'll say something specific. Your approach to managing your team to do XYZ is really important to me as I look towards the next step in my career. Then I'll reiterate something very brief about myself, a new key result that I didn't get to share during the interview. It's important for, it's really important for me to let you know that I also do X, Y, and Z. Looking forward to hearing from you. I attach my resume. I even link to the job description for the role that we're talking about so that you as the hiring manager or the recruiter just don't have to go anywhere else to see exactly what happened. Okay, it was this candidate for this role. We interviewed on this date and time. We talked about these things. Also, now as the hiring manager, if you want to get me hired there, if you're like, oh, this is really good, I want to move this person forward, you can forward that email immediate to leadership and say, hey, we have a couple all-star candidates coming in. Just want to put them on the radar. These are the people we might be making offers to in the next few weeks, right? You can share it anywhere and the template is just right there. Throughout the full interview process, always send status updates to the recruiter who's working with you. Hey, I just want to thank you, let you know that I had a great conversation today during my interview with Nicole about X, Y, and Z, date and time for the analyst role, hyperlink to the job description, resume attached. The recruiter has all that information in their system, but them getting that email from you with all the information right there just really builds a strong relationship of communication. And that's one of the key things to working together, right? So even if you send your thank you note directly to the hiring manager, the team member you worked with, also send it back to the recruiter so that they can manage their process, right? And the more reasons you give them throughout the process to hire you, the more likely you are to be that person that lands in what we call offer criteria. Anyone can go through a couple of interviews and maybe meet some success criteria. But as hiring managers or recruiters, and that's not on the screen right now, I just want the process up there. As hiring managers and recruiters, as someone goes through the process, we immediately start to see, oh, wow, who's the person I really could work with today? So every day throughout your job search, you are always behaving as the person in the job that you want, right? Whether you're just up here networking, introducing yourself, asking questions, reflecting back what's important to the other people, getting that referral, your follow-up is tight, it's communicative, it's simple, but it provides valid information. And throughout the whole process, you're constantly showing that you make work life easier in some way. So keep that in mind. You are always the person who is here to get the offer. You are always behaving as the person who's going to be in the seat tomorrow. Great questions today, by the way. Any other questions coming to mind as we're just thinking, how are we going to start those relationships? Any big hurdles that we're thinking about today that we haven't covered? I love that. The going back 3 to 6 months later, even if you didn't get the job the first time. I am curious, have you had any relationships that developed from doing that, whether they turned into a job or just some other fruitful way of being in your world? You always make friends. Okay, that's so beautiful. Yeah, just a reminder, it feels like such a difficult process, whether we're trying to hire and the struggle is just finding the right person through masses of resumes and applications, or the person out there who's looking at limited opportunities right now, seeing layoffs, seeing how difficult it is, and we're feeling that anxiety. Just bring it back to the joy of being able to connect with people. I do also hear a lot of people say, after the first recruiter screen, well, they said that they don't do remote, so I'm not going to move forward with the interview. And I'm just like, well, what if it turns out they have the best work environment ever and they have strong reasons for wanting to be together? And what if you don't get any more interviews in the next 2 months? And what if these are the people that could change your life and be the next step in your career? Is it worth rethinking that? So we want to do what Slotty said and have our non-negotiables, but we do also want to put relationships first. I also say interviews are free and nobody's ever expecting a yes. And you don't even know if you're going to get the offer. So take the interview, keep the process going, lean in at the end if it's not the right fit. Fair, but you don't know what you're going to discover, right? So I think that's the other thing too, is remembering that this process is a process, right? Do we have a better process overview in here? No, we don't. Okay, yeah, just that high level summary. But it's a process. You're constantly going through it. You're asking yourself, how many people am I talking to? How many referrals do I have in play? How many interviews do I have coming up? And if you don't have any, you're coming back to the beginning of the process and you're starting again with going out and telling your story and building those relationships. Yes. I've had a lot of people who join my job search community leave at some time because it was too hard or it was the wrong time in their life. And then they come back and they turn it, they come back and they say, okay, this is what I need. And everything happens for them. Let's find Melissa. Actually, no, I'm not going to actually show a person because I just realized confidentiality, but Melissa had joined my job search community and then decided it was the wrong time. And there's always like 20% of people who say, yes, I want to go on this journey and land a job. 20% will opt out after 3 weeks for some reason or other, whether it's because they think they can do it on their own or just the not right time in their life. We can all get a job any way we want to. There are so many ways to go about this process, right? But Melissa was one of those who came back and then went through the process. And within 3 months, she landed a contract role at Forbes for an editor position that was initially just supposed to be covering for maternity leave. It's now been a year and she is still an editor at Forbes, but her life has changed because of that. And her life has also changed because she decided to take a chance on a contract role instead of following the old way of like, that doesn't, they said this, they said that, I'm going to pass on this. So it's knowing your non-negotiables, but really what are the non-negotiables and what are the other things that could be something big, right? I have more stories about people who have done the process and had their lives just transformed forever because of it. But they're just, we can all transform our lives in any way. Sometimes we're just one conversation or one question away from unlocking an opportunity, right? So, yeah. Cheryl was one who, let's see if I have her story, who showed up and, where are her posts? But she was a believer immediately. She saw, she's a believer in the possibilities immediately. So she saw what could happen when you share a story. And she didn't have professional experience in cybersecurity, just her schooling. And within 10 weeks of doing the process, she had her first job and now she's got her second job. And I know she's just going to have an amazing career. But it all started with that simple story, right? And how do you tell a story if you don't actually have experience and you just have a lot of passion? Hers is a really good example of that. Yeah, big shout out to Day of Security for making it happen and for you for telling your story. That's super inspiring. I'll come talk to you afterwards. Yeah, I'm curious if anyone has any challenges to the process, feel free to come talk to me. I especially love like, hey, I went out and I did all those things you said and it didn't work. What's next? Because there's always something else to try. And I always say the only thing that works is what works. I just happen to take a sort of data-driven approach and I look at what's working for the greatest number of people at any given time to kind of deduce these takeaways for all of us who are out there trying to get a job. Okay, let's keep in touch. This is the beginning of a relationship, not the end of a relationship. So feel free to reach out anytime. Thanks, everyone.